I'd like to just take a minute and say good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. This afternoon's discussion is a presentation of the Foster Center for Responsible Leadership. The Foster Center is made possible by a generous gift from Daria Foster, honoring her late husband, William C. Foster, class of '62. My name is Michael Gallagher. I'm the director of the Foster Leadership Center here on campus. I would also like to thank Dean James for helping to facilitate the many projects the Foster Center is able to bring to our community. Before we start, I would like to invite everyone to mute yourselves, but I'd also like to invite everyone to put your cameras on so we can have an opportunity to see who we're talking with. Today's talk is about navigating an increasingly complex and digital world. Our speaker today is JenWikeHuger, manager and community lead at Red Hat, a leading open source software company based in Raleigh, North Carolina. Jen serves as audience strategist on the digital communities team, where she manages editors who run the publication opensource.com, a premier storytelling platform for developers, system administrators, Linux users, and open source enthusiasts. Jen will talk about her career journey and the importance of a digital presence you can be proud to show off in a job interview. These are exactly the professional skills we hope all of you at St. Bonaventure will take with you as you prepare for your own careers. I'll turn the talk over to JenWikeHuger.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. Can you hear me okay? And can you see my presentation? Okay, good. Awesome. So thank you for having me. I really love giving talks about my career journey and kind of, the zigs and then the zags that it's taken. And I like to share that with people because, especially people who are about to, launch into their career, because it's always nice to hear other people's stories, right? And to find out sort of what's normal, what's not normal, where you might need to make some changes, how to think about it. And especially in the digital world. So much is online. Some aspect of your career will be online, whether it's some, profiles that you have on social media or things that you put on LinkedIn. I mean, everybody does something different, but you will have some sort of digital presence, and you already do, right? And it's going to matter to some degree how you put yourself out there and what you are saying about yourself. So this is not what not to do on social media, because I am not an expert on that, but it's kind of, two parts. It's how to think about your career path once you get there, and some things you can do, just to go ahead and start thinking about that and be prepared for that. And then how to think about your professional self. And again, even though you're not there yet, what you do now matters, and how you think about it now matters. So this is kind of prep for that down the road. So the first thing to think about is what your path looks like. So that can be anything from what is your major right now to what are your passions and what different areas might you be thinking about going into. Just because you're in a certain major now doesn't mean that that's what you're going to do later. And I think many times that, that's not what you do later. And so what do? You follow what's working for you. You try out different things. This is college is a really cool opportunity to try different things, to come to this, even though you're an economics major or you're taking an economics class. And just, see what interests you, see what comes out of that. So couple of kind of thought prompts is, what does your path look like? That can be your academic path. That could be like, what am I doing in my free time for fun that I'm passionate about? I don't know, maybe it's painting, maybe it's studying animals. There's a lot of different types of things that you could be doing in your free time that might matter later in your career. One thing that I was doing in my free time was working on a blog. I started a blog called The Downtown Dame when Raleigh, North Carolina, downtown Raleigh was really exploding. So there was a time when I first went to college when downtown Raleigh was like a ghost town. There was nothing going on. And then it started to change as I was living in Raleigh and a college student, but then I stayed in Raleigh, and it started to change, and I started a blog. And so I was like, I really, like to go out and I like to do things. And then I wanted to write about it. So I took some time to really enjoy that and do it for me. And then it ended up being that, like, hey, I want to do this as a career. And it fit in with the path that I was taking as a communications major at the time, but it was definitely not what I was planning on doing. And at one point I totally veered and like was thinking about doing nursing. And then I started the blog and I was like, well, no, I do really do like writing. So, the point really is, follow what is working for you. And it's not just going to be like, oh, I know what's working for me. It's kind of like, this is a constant kind of question and thought in your mind as you go along your entire life, right? What is working for you? What is not working for you? What is really like not just hard, right? Because sometimes academics is hard. Statistics was hard for me, but I got through it and I really liked it. And it like mattered in the end for what I was kind of trying to pursue for a different reason. But what is like hard in terms of not really enjoying it, not getting anywhere, not feeling, kind of like that gut instinct feeling like it's not working. So I think, asking yourself that question as you go along is really important. So this slide is just kind of a walkthrough of what my path looked like, the zigs and the zags, kind of interest in high school, went into something similar in college, but then started to think about nursing, and then did this blog and like kind of went back into that lane. And then when I went out into the world and got a job, I combined that and did like writing at a healthcare company. And then I was like, I really don't want to keep doing healthcare. So I transitioned totally over to a technology company. And the kind of gotcha here is like, the only reason I got that job is because I had started a blog and somebody saw my blog and they were like, oh, you could probably be a copy editor. But I was not like training to become a copy editor, but I had all this education, right? Like clearly I could copy edit something if I really wanted to. So I really wanted to make this transition. I really wanted to work for this technology company. And so I did the job. I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that job. And that was because I had put in the work, right, to like do something consistently. And that was writing for this blog. So real quick, going to take a time out to tell you about Red Hat. So some people are like, what is open source? You work for an open source company. What does that mean? So open source software is software that is, the code is open. So the code is out in a public repository. Anyone can go and access it, look at the code, and download it and make changes to it, and run it themselves. So it's very different than most code, right? Most code is private, internal only. This is our special sauce. We're not going to share this with anyone because this makes us money. Well, Red Hat has figured out a way to not only make it open source, but then make money on it by selling subscriptions and selling services. So, you could go take that code and download it and change it, but you're going to need some help because it's complex. Linux is complex, and we have a lot of other products beyond a Linux operating system, but that's how that works. But that culture of open source trickles down into everything we do. The whole culture at Red Hat is open. Decision making is open. They really try to be a meritocracy, which is like anybody at any level can share what they think, and weigh in. And so there's a lot of different sort of platforms for that and meetings for that, so that people can weigh in and share and be part of the culture, whether you're an intern or an individual contributor or a manager or a director or a C-level. So that is, that's the idea, and it works to some degree. It's not perfect. It's very challenging, but it is a great place to work for that reason. So that's kind of what my path looks like. And then, like I said, the next thing is to continue to follow what's working for you. And I was going to, take some time to let you all think through what your path right now is, and review what's working for you. Is it easy to follow what seems to be working for you? What are the turning points? So I think, kind of we're at that point where I would love to take any questions or thoughts that you have regarding your path and what's working for you. Or it doesn't have to be specifically your situation. Just, it could be high level questions, or it could be your specific situation. Or just any thoughts you have about that. I'm happy to chat about for a minute. We wanted to kind of break it up between me presenting and y'all talking, and then we'll do this again at the end.
Yeah, I actually have a question. So in regard to when you're saying started by writing in regard to developing your pathway, do you mean kind of pretty much writing a resume pretty much of a timeline of all the stuff you're doing or have done? Is that, in hindsight, kind of what you were saying, or at least trying to get to us?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is kind of different things. That is a really good point. Writing down, not journaling per se, but writing down where you are, what path you feel like you're on. And that can be so many things. So I'd write down all the things that means to you, what the path looks like, but then also how you might want to change it, or what you might want to keep the same about that path. And that might open up a door for you. It might open up an idea for you. It might cause you to want to create something, which I think is the best thing that you can do, is create something on your own. And for me, that was a blog. And that was a game changer for me, because it taught me a lot about myself. It allowed me to have a creative space, and it ultimately led to a career that I'm passionate about. I've been at the same company for 8 years, which is kind of unheard of. Every time I tell that to somebody, they're like, the same place for 8 years. I mean, that's not normal anymore. And that's because I'm doing something that I'm passionate about. And I think the point of that is that if you had asked me when I was in college, what do you want to do? That, it would not have been the same answer, right? So it's always, you're going to change, and what you want to do, you're just going to have to try to follow it. Where is it? What are the tracks? What are the landmarks? So it can be this process that I'm talking about for writing, or it could be actually writing, which blogging, writing for a publication, which I will talk about later. There's a lot to be said for that. And then it's also whatever you're putting on social media, you might not see that as writing or a creative process, but it is in a way. And it does matter what you put out there, because I think not only are people going to look at it who might want to hire you later, but it does kind of create an image of yourself, and which can be inspiring to yourself, which is important, but it can also inspire other people. I think we covered a lot with that one, so thank you. That was That's a good question. Any other thoughts or ideas or questions?
I had a question.
Sure.
Pertaining to your situation, when you said you like had a major and it flipped, did you go into your major knowing that that's something you were not interested in, or is there an opportunity that kind of swayed you off the path of your initial degree?
Yeah, the thing is that like I went to a college that I really wanted to go to, and they didn't necessarily have the major that I wanted. Like I think I would have gone into journalism, but I didn't want to go to the rival school that had a journalism, which is like ridiculous really when I think about that now. But so I did the next closest thing, which was communications. And I felt good about that. I mean, I felt like, okay, well, I don't know exactly what job I want at the end of this. Like, I'm not going to be an MD, period, full stop. Like, here's the path for that. You know, I was kind of like, well, what do I want to do? What is the path is going to look like? A very windy, ziggy-zaggy road. So I feel like this is true enough for me right now. And I'm going to stay with it. And I think there's a concentration sections in that major. And so I think I might have changed concentrations one time. And then I added on a minor. So I kept feeling like it was true enough to continue to graduate in. And okay, yeah, and then I did an internship that was related. And I liked that. It wasn't until like a couple years after I graduated that I started to think about nursing and healthcare. So I think I'm answering your question by saying like, it still felt true for me to graduate in and to continue to kind of see where that went.
That definitely answers it. Thank you.
Cool. Anybody else?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
What recommendation would you give to someone who really has no plan at all? Maybe they're an undeclared business major. They really don't know their next step in life and they're kind of just going through the motions. So what advice would you give to a student or anybody in that situation?
Yeah, totally. And I would first say, like, don't feel bad about it. It's totally, I mean, I honestly feel like asking people in that stage of life to know exactly what they want to do is asking a lot. And I felt the pressure to like figure it out, like know what it is, make a decision. Because you have to choose classes, right? Like you have to have a major, you have to, well, I don't know if you have to have a major, but I guess you don't actually have to in some different schools, different things. But you know, you feel like, okay, well, I'm going to pay a bunch of money to do this thing and spend time on it. I need to like have a plan. So anyway, I felt a lot of pressure to decide that, even if I was going to change my mind. So I would say it's normal to feel like, you know, you don't know for sure what you want to do or where it's going to lead or what's going to happen. I think that's actually the more truer place potentially for a lot of people. And I really think my advice is try to just do something in your free time that makes you happy. And like have a hobby, you know, I mean, I didn't really have the writing hobby until later. So it might be a lot to ask to do that while you're in college, but I think it's smart. And I think what's great about it is it does help you figure out what you like. Because I think if I had started, like when I started the blog and started doing it regularly, if I had been like, you know, I really can't write this often. I don't really like writing that much, actually. I probably would have gone into nursing, you know, like, oh, okay, well, this isn't really the communication side. The writing side, there's part of me that likes it. I don't like it enough to do all the time. And that's what that would have showed me. Right. But I had the opposite where it was like, oh, well, I do like doing this all the time. I actually don't want to go into nursing. And again, it's all like, you know, you just kind of make some decisions. Sometimes you're not always sure. But I do think what I see in life is that things kind of verify that you're moving in a direction that's true for you, or they don't. So I feel like that's another piece, is like, what feels like it's verifying that you're moving in that direction that feels true for you or not.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Hope that made some sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Cool. Well, anybody else before we go to the next? All right, cool. So this is the side of presenting your professional self, putting your professional self out there. And I would say, you know, this definitely starts now. It's not about just when you have a job. It's this side of you that is not just like the fun for friends only, for family only self. It's the person who is also you and is still true, but is the more, like, let's say, the more groomed version of yourself. And I think it's important to have that person being presented on social media as well. But maybe we can just kind of talk through that a little bit. There's, you know, some different ways to think about that. But whether it's Instagram or LinkedIn or an email with your professor, you know, like, think about who is on the other end of whatever you're doing. And so that's a broad window, right? Social media or an email with your professor. But the point is to think about, like, who's on the other end, who's the audience for this. And to just really think about that, and also think about the fact that spelling matters, grammar matters, these little things matter, because not to put too much pressure, but like, you're going to be competing with a lot of other people for a job, or for a role, or for visibility, you know. And if you lowercase when you should uppercase, or you don't smell, you know, there's no reason for it, honestly, too, because we have so many tools. Like, so just put in like 5 extra seconds to make it what it should be. It will make you look so much better. Like, it just is, it's amazing. It's like, you know, putting on a suit when you're wearing pajamas. Like, there's just a notable difference. It matters. People care. I definitely care when I'm hiring people. So I think that you know, there's something to be said for that. And then the other thing is to be intentional with your profile and what you say or post. So this is my Instagram, and I think about Instagram in a very, very personal way for the most part. You know, this is not where I'm like, I'm not simply my professional self here, but I have coworkers who follow me. My boss follows me, my boss's boss, and my boss's boss's boss. And so, you know, I'm curating what I'm putting out there with that lens. Granted, Red Hat's pretty cool, and people are pretty great about, like, you know, letting your true self be also your work self. So I think there's just a balance there, is my point. Like, don't be somebody different, but just try to think about that. They're just have in your mind that there's, like, both worlds do exist. You know, if you try to just say, hey, this is only for personal, I'm not going to think about the professional me at all, I just feel like that's actually not really true. Like, there's always a chance that these worlds will collide. I'll say it that way. And it's just smart. It's just smart. So my deal here on Instagram is, like, I'm trying to be more fun and creative. And I do keep it private. I used to keep it open, but I have kids now, so I keep it private. But I do accept people from work who want to follow me there. Twitter. So I'm kind of doing this from, like, the most personal to the most professional. So Twitter is kind of like a step up for me. I think about, like, this is the headshot that I got like a few years ago at work. That background image is like an image actually that we've created at work. And I'm very much like, Twitter is about, like, promoting my job, promoting the content that we create in my job, promoting other people that I work with. And I do share some personal stuff, but I think about it from a professional lens. I actually kind of relate a lot of it to work, whether it's working from home. Like I've taken a picture of like a mug that I was drinking coffee out of. But it was like, this is my work day, so it's related, but there are some personal me pieces to it. So, and then LinkedIn is like the next level. Like I'm hardly ever on LinkedIn, but I do have a presence there because I want, my boss and my colleagues to see me as a leader in what I'm doing. So I maintain like a spot there kind of, I know that people search LinkedIn, recruiters definitely use LinkedIn. So I would say, whether you have a job or not, especially when you get out into looking for a professional and career job, start that whole process, like you're going to want a solid LinkedIn because people are going to be able to find you there, message you there, say, hey, I've seen you've done these things in this arena that really matches with this job. And I've had a lot of recruiters reach out to me that way. Have not said yes to any of them, but it is a nice way for people to just find you. And then this is really kind of a plug for why writing is important. I know that not everybody likes to write, but my whole job, a big part of my job at Red Hat is to convince people who are not writers that writing is important and why they should write. And the whole deal is like, if you know how to write about what you do, whether it's coding or engineering or architecture or, you're an animal vet, like if you know how to write about what you do, then you are showing your expertise in that thing. And you're helping your own brain think about what you do and you become better at it, in my mind. In my experience, the people who can write about what they do are better at their job than other people, really, because they can conceptualize it all the way through. And think about all the pieces that go into it and teach other people how to do it. That's a big part of being successful in your career, no matter what you do, as well as if you can share about what you're doing, talk intelligently about what you're doing, and collaborate with other people, then you're going to have a huge leg up. That is a big, big, big part of being out in the professional world and working for a company. So I would say writing is like a way to get there. And you might feel like, oh, my writing is terrible. Like I don't enjoy it and I'm not good at it. But one thing too about publications is that there's always, usually, I wouldn't say always, but there's usually an editorial team at the other end and they want you to contribute. And so they want to help you. And they'll also, and a lot of what we do is we try to get people to become better writers by helping. So I have a GitHub and I have some resources for learning how to write, getting published, the whole process. So check that out. Use whatever works for you. Let me know if you have questions. Yeah, so, just some things to think about is what platforms are you on? What do you share there? What do you read and digest? What matters to you? And then, how does that align with your truth and with your goals? Doesn't have to just be professional goals. And then how might you tweak, remove, add, depending on that. So that is that section. Any thoughts or questions?
Yeah, I actually had a question.
Yeah.
How big of a disadvantage do you think that someone would be in this day and age if they didn't have any social media? And also, do you think that it's kind of mandatory, like at this point, for like a college student or like a young professional to like get a social media account of some sort to kind of be successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on I think it depends. If you're going to be a vet tech, I don't think maybe you need one. I don't really know. But if you're going to be in marketing, if you're going to be in technology, then yeah, you need to be online, and and your digital presence needs to reflect intelligence. I mean, it needs to, I'm not talking about like academic, I'm not talking about math and science. I'm talking about like emotional intelligence in a way, where it's like you've thought about the picture that you put up there. You've thought about the way you've described yourself. You've thought about the post that you're posting. And there's just like something to it, there's something creative there. There's something exciting there. And really, like, kind of at the end of the day, there's something there that aligns to who you are and who you're trying to be at work. And my Instagram is not who I'm trying to be at work necessarily, but not totally not. It kind of becomes more abstract as you get to the more personal social media. But I would say, especially like Twitter, LinkedIn, those kind of platforms are what's great about those platforms, especially I think Twitter, the way I use it is like, I'm trying to connect with other people in my field. And so it's a good one for that. They're all a little bit different, right? So I think it's very important. I mean, I'm sure there are some career paths where it's maybe not as important. Do people not have social media presence? Is that is that possible?
Yeah, I'm not really too sure. I mean,
but I mean, maybe to your point, it's like an intentional presence, like, not just being on whatever platform, but being on one for an intentional reason and with, intentional motives and posts and that kind of thing.
I have a question about that, Jen.
Yeah.
You know how you sort of talked about there's a hierarchy of Instagram and then Twitter and then maybe LinkedIn. And do you think that posting different things sets up people to become inauthentic? Like they're not the same person on each of these platforms. So how are we perceived by others in terms of our authenticity? Do you know what I mean? It's just been in my mind quite a bit lately.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I understand you correctly, I think that at least my perspective is that like, that's just normal. Like people are going to present a different like angle, at the different platforms. And that's not wrong. It's just kind of how you might choose to engage on that platform, and that you're not going to have the same type of engagement on every platform. And so how you seem or look is going to be different because you're going to share different parts of yourself and different levels of yourself. And my best friend knows me differently than the person that knows me on Twitter, and that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as, I think maybe to your point, like as long as you're still being authentic, if you're trying to be fake, a fake version of yourself or lie about what you're capable of or make things up, then yeah, that's maybe a whole different, I would definitely advise against that for many, many reasons.
And that would probably become apparent if you were,
Yeah.
if you didn't convey the same person through all your different platforms.
Yeah, I think it would catch up with you if you were not being real about who you are. Yeah, I think that would catch up. Yeah.
Thank you. Some other folks must have some questions or some comments.
I mean, most people have, do most people here have a LinkedIn? I don't know if that's like a thing that starts in college or not for most people.
Yeah, typically.
We've been trying to get our students to put up profiles, videos of themselves talking as if it were a cover letter,
Yeah.
or videos of students describing how they managed a certain project or a certain assignment that they did. We have a lot at St. Bonaventure. We do a lot of service work. So there are a lot of service projects that our students get involved in. And so we're trying to encourage, creating that digital presence, which of course is why we invited you to talk.
Well, I hope it's helpful. Like I said, I don't feel like an expert in this arena. I just wanted to be honest about, like, this is what I do. This is how I think about it. I didn't get any sort of professional guidance on this other than, just kind of these ideas of like trying to be authentic, trying to be honest, trying to be my true self, but also being okay with, like, there are different, you can have boundaries, right? You can have boundaries around how much of yourself you want to share or show on these different places. And that's okay. And honestly, with the professional world, like, I don't need to pretend like we're best friends at work. We're not. We're coworkers. And there is a lot of that. It's not just your coworkers, because y'all are not, most of y'all probably don't have like a career going yet, right? You're not working somewhere professionally yet, but there are different ways to think of that. Maybe you do have a job, but you're not seeing it as your like end goal job. But that's those coworkers, can still think in a similar vein. Or your classmates, and your professors. I mean, there's a different boundary there. It's a different world. But it is good to connect. I mean, I think, not to be all like negative on this stuff. I mean, oh my God, I think I will tell you that Facebook was starting when I was ending college. So it's really different now. And I think it's actually kind of cool. There's a lot more ways to connect. There's a lot more ways to be creative and share yourself. But just to know, like, to try to think about it and be intentional about it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have have you had an experience where maybe a coworker posted something inappropriate on social media, or maybe you were hiring somebody and they had something inappropriate on their social media? Could you talk about an experience you had like that?
Yeah, I haven't had an experience where it's like, deeply inappropriate. But I have two things. One is I used to work with a person who would post on her social media this was on Twitter. So Twitter's very open. It's a lot harder to hide yourself there. And this person would post things that I just thought did not put them in a positive light. It wasn't necessarily inappropriate. I mean, it kind of bordered on it a little bit. And my thought there was, it taught me something. Like, do I want to model that behavior, or do I actively feel like, okay, that's a lesson for me. I do not want to do that. But what it came down to was it was also this person's personality. And I don't think it's actually had a lot of negative effects on this person's career path. They have been able to continue to move up and move on and have a well-paying job, and I think be respected. But I know that there are people that have also seen this person's posts and thought, well, I kind of feel differently about them. And I know it's hindered some connections, and I know it's hindered some, I would say connections is like the main thing. And having connections is what so much of it is about life, but also professional life. And so that made me pause. And then I don't think I've had an experience where I was hiring someone and saw anything inappropriate on social media. But I mean, definitely we look at their social media, and it's not to like be nosy, but it's like, okay, well, if you're going to actually do social media for our company, we're going to look at your social media. So if you're trying to do social media for anybody, definitely have your social media figured out. And, you know, tight. I mean, you don't want to have any surprises there. But, and the same goes for anybody in marketing. It's very similar, even if you're not doing social media for somebody. I'm trying to think. I feel like there must be something, but I mean, you know, even if it's not something inappropriate, I mean, you're sending messages, and you're telling a story in a way. And I don't want to put the message out there to y'all right now that everything you put on social media needs to be beautiful and happy, because that's not really right either. And I don't really know what the best advice is, but to maybe just try to balance it. Yeah, because that's not right either. To be like a perfect, happy person on social media all the time is not the best answer either. But maybe it's just more about integrity in a way, you know, where you're being honest, but you're also having integrity with how you're sharing it, I think is my message there.
So like, I have another kind of like a follow-up question.
Yeah.
You know, let's say you're hiring somebody and you do a search for them on Instagram per se, and you see you search the name and you find two profiles and it's the same person. The one profile is public, and it's almost like a LinkedIn, very formal, you know, you're shaking hands with the dean, you're graduating from college, but the other profile is private and you really don't know what's on there. They're obviously posting on it. How would that make you feel as the person hiring this person? Do you think that they're maybe two-faced, or they're not showing you everything and hiding things? How do you feel about that?
I feel like that is totally normal. I feel like everybody has every single right in the world to have a private social media. I don't think that's weird. I don't think that should raise red flags. I don't think that should make you think somebody is one way or another. I think that hopefully, you know, if there is something funny, you know, hopefully you're going to have some other red flags come up. But I don't think having a personal and a personal and a public, or private and a public should be a red flag.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's kind of maybe a good thing. Again, it's kind of around the boundaries. Like, you should be able to have that, in my mind. That's fair.
Legitimate.
Yeah.
More questions from folks? Comments?
Thank you all for coming.
Jen, I'd like to circle back to something you said earlier, which is, our path is sort of, it opens up before us. And I think something that's really important that we don't always think about. I know personally, I very often have my head down. Mm-hmm. And I don't see the opportunity as it presents itself. And I just think it's important to sort of lift my head up and say, what's next? You know, I mean, I could get hit in the head with an opportunity and not even know it, you know, because I'm so obsessed about, you know, oh, I've got to do this or I've got to do that. And I really picked up on that early in your talk that it's, you know, just put my head up and look around, you know, because I don't always know what I want to do or what I should be doing. And so I miss it. You know, I'm like the last one.
Yeah, I really love that. That's such a good point to just whatever it means to you to like stick your head up and look around and to not be so sure, honestly, maybe sometimes that you know exactly what you're going to do and want to do, because then you're just very heads down. Your head's down on that path and you're not looking around and you're not able to really follow and see what's working and what's not working. Yeah. And to take opportunities to try something new, to not be sure is a good thing.
This has been a terrific talk. Thank you so much. You know, we're so grateful to have people like you come and talk to our students and share your journey and your message and how to navigate it out there in the world. It's really a gift for our students, you know, that you're willing to do this. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was fun. I'm on social media. If anybody wants to ask any follow-up questions or reach out, I'm happy to do that. So thank you so much for having me. I hope that y'all have a great rest of your Thursday. I hope that you follow your path because it is unique to you.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
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 Jen, will you stay on for a little bit?
Sure, happy to.
Hey, Jen, I just want to tell you how much I enjoyed it. Very good. Thank you very much.
Oh, great. Thanks, Todd.
Bye-bye.